Frank Matthews arrived at his Brooklyn safe house on July 2, 1973. He immediately opened a compartment, probably one not widely known to the general public, and removed $20 million in cash. He put that money into 2 large leather bags, picked up his girlfriend, and left for the airport. After arriving at the airport, he just disappeared. He hasn't been seen since. No arrests have ever been made. There have never been any confirmed sightings of him in the last 50 years. He's truly gone.
The most crazy thing about this entire situation is that he went missing when he was at his strongest and had full control over a network of drugs distributed throughout the entire country, with links to over 21 states, and was using those links to become one of the wealthiest people in America, even exceeding many of the wealthiest mafia families. So why would Frank Matthews want to leave all of that behind and disappear? The answer to this question is found about 8 years earlier. In 1965, Frank Matthews had the opportunity to speak to a legendary gangster on his deathbed, and during that conversation, he was told certain things that would later save his life. Now, let's go back to the year 1965, when Frank Matthews was 26 years old and hustling in Brooklyn, but still small time compared to many of his contemporaries. Matthews is very bright and is someone who studies the game rather than simply participating in it. Matthews knows he needs to learn from an experienced player, and that is when he meets Bumpy Johnson. For those of you who don't know Bumpy Johnson, he was a man who ran Harlem for decades, battled with Lucky Luciano, and earned his respect. He spent 10 years in Alcatraz and came out alive. Bumpy Johnson is a legend in every sense of the word. He has lived for 60 years and has seen and done it all.
The first time Matthews and Johnson meet is at Small's Paradise in Harlem. Matthews arrives nervous and with great respect for the older man. Bumpy enters with a cane, and his health is failing, but he still has the same presence that he always has. He continues to be a legend. Matthews is astute enough to ask the one question that most young dealers would not think to ask. How did you maintain your independence from the Italian families while operating your own business? Bumpy reclined on the couch as if telling Matthews an incredible revelation. He explained that he earned respect from others through proving he was intelligent enough never to be viewed as subordinate to anyone. He recounted beating Lucky Luciano in a chess match in 1935 in less than 6 minutes. That one game altered Luciano's view of Bumpy because he realized that Bumpy thought out of the box and was devising a plan to defeat him. If Luciano attempted to defeat Bumpy through violence, even if it worked, it would have cost him a great deal more than if he worked with Bumpy on an equal basis. The moral of the story is that intelligence will garner respect that lasts indefinitely, whereas violence will only create fear for a limited time. Matthews listened intently, and from that meeting on, Bumpy and Matthews met approximately every 3 months over a period of 3 years, with Bumpy acting as Matthews's mentor and passing along information on all aspects of success, including how to create a distribution network with little to no vulnerability, how to manage people, how to ensure people's loyalty while keeping them from having enough ambition to ever challenge you, how to manage law enforcement, competitors, and money. Matthews put into practice every lesson that Bumpy taught him during their time together, resulting in Matthews' rapid ascension to a significant position of power and influence in 1967. Then Bumpy says something that sounds as if he can predict the future. He tells Matthews that you've created something incredible, but keep in mind that the higher up you go, the more it will hurt when you fall. Matthews argues, why do I have to fall if I'm careful and intelligent? Bumpy just sighs, because law enforcement will never stop. The operations pressure from creating the business will become great enough to crush even the best of operators, while it is designed to destroy you. Here's also where the real emotion will happen. On May 15, 1968, Bumpy knows he is dying due to heart problems and has only weeks, possibly months, to live. As a result, he invites Matthews to dinner for their last meaningful conversation. When finished eating, he tells Matthews something he will remember for the rest of his life. Everything has a beginning and an end, but starting something new is not the difficult part. Knowing when to end a project is the hardest aspect of completion. Many people are capable of launching new ideas. However, Bumpy Johnson was a little late on ending his. Because he was late to learn about ending projects, he ended up at Alcatraz in 1953 and was released in 1963 and began rebuilding instead of retiring. He also died at the age of 63 instead of living to 80, through Bumpy's example. When Matthews asked Bumpy Johnson about how one would know when it was time to end a project, Bumpy replied that one would feel it because the pressure from law enforcement would be overwhelming and everything that one had worked for was going to be at risk rather than building more wealth. Bumpy Johnson also recommended that when that feeling occurs, to remember what he had said to Matthews regarding being aware of when to stop and act on it. The 7 weeks after Bumpy Johnson had passed away, Matthews attended the funeral. He watched Bumpy's casket being carried out of the church and once again identified with Bumpy Johnson's words, "Everything has a beginning and end. Knowing when to stop is an art." Matthews, over the past 5 years, has become a success beyond anything Bumpy could have imagined. He controls drug operations across 21 states, suppliers in South America and Asia, and ships more drugs in a month than most major organized crime families do in a year. He has amassed between $20 million and $50 million and is living the American dream. But, like all very successful business people, his dream turned into a nightmare very fast. By 1973, the law was closing in on him. The DEA had just been created, and they were looking for Matthews. They got him. He was indicted on drug charges in February 1973 and released on a record $5 million bond. In April 1973, his 2 associates were arrested and agreed to testify against him in exchange for lighter sentences. By May 1973, Matthews realized a critical point. He had stopped building and was now simply trying to protect everything he worked for. Bumpy's words started coming back to him in June 1973, and he began organizing himself to escape. Matthews has already started transferring funds into cash, as well as making arrangements for creating false identities, having conversations with Cheryl, his girlfriend, and preparing offshore accounts where he would hide his money. On July 2, 1973, he completed all the necessary steps to complete his escape. On that date, he took $20 million from his vault, placed it into leather bags, and then got Cheryl and himself on an airplane using a fake passport. That's all there is. He is dead. 50 years later, no one can say what had happened to Frank Matthews. The FBI has chased thousands of leads across many countries, but have still come back with nothing. Some say he has died, but others say he had lived somewhere else under the protection of a new name, and that his ability to completely escape from law enforcement is very close to what only a few criminals have been able to accomplish. Law enforcement has always thought of Matthews as a criminal attempting to elude prosecution. What law enforcement failed to see was that Matthews learned a valuable lesson while a student at the age of 15 from Mr. Bumpy Johnson about when to stop doing something. Matthews learned this lesson well, and when the time came to make that last decision, he had the discipline needed to make the right choice. This is the real story. There are many lessons to be learned from drugs, money, and criminal activity. It's about the transfer of knowledge from someone who has failed in life and will never learn the lesson he had learned to someone who is young and disciplined enough to apply it to their life. If Frank Matthews is still alive today, wherever he is, he has proven that Bumpy Johnson was right. The ability to know when to stop doing something is an art and separates legends from cautionary tales.